Quite a few episodes ago, my lovely creative director Elizabeth asked me what I would do if I wasn't doing what I'm doing right now. And one of the answers I said was be a philanthropist. I mean, how amazing would it be to give out gifts that change people's lives every single day? On today's episode, you're going to find out just what it's like. Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where I, Selena Knight, share strategies, interview retail revolutionaries, and delve into the minds of e-commerce experts to help you grow a profitable, independent retail or e-commerce business. If you're stuck in a rut, or if you feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've overachieved all of the things that you've set out to and are wondering what to do next, or how do I even make this better? I know that you're going to love today's episode. If you're stuck in a rut, feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've achieved all of the things that you set out to and are wondering what next, or how do I even make this better, then I know that you're going to love today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Now, I don't know about you, but I love to give gifts. In this latest lockdown, of which I think we're at like week 9, I don't know, I gave up counting. In this latest lockdown, I found one of the things that makes me feel really good when I'm having a down day is to send random gifts to people I care about. The funny thing is, whilst I love getting gifts, it's not as exciting and it doesn't fill me up as much as giving gifts. It's weird, isn't it? Now, whether you like to give gifts like I do, or you love to receive gifts, at the end of the day, gift giving in and of itself makes people happy. And imagine having the chance to do that every single day. I mean, giving a gift can change somebody's life. And that's exactly what today's guest, Genevieve Piturro, has made it her mission to do. Genevieve Piturro is all about purpose. She was a successful television marketing executive until she dramatically changed the direction of her life. In this episode, she's actually going to share with you the moment, that aha moment when her life dramatically changed. And in that moment, her entire focus on life shifted. Now that shift or that twist led to a conversation. Well, it wasn't even a conversation. It was just a few words from a 6-year-old girl. And those words changed the world forever. Now, I'm going to let Genevieve tell you all about that. But fast forward to today, and Jen has been interviewed on TV shows like Oprah, Today, Good Morning Australia, The Early Show, CNN, O Magazine. She's been in Forbes, The Wall Street Journal. This lady is a powerhouse. And what she focuses on now is helping people find their purpose. We all need a reason to get up in the morning, something that lights our soul and fills our cup. And today, Genevieve is not only going to share her story with you, but give you some tips on how you can do that in your life and in your business. So let's jump into today's episode with Genevieve Piturro. You must be so happy having given out more than, is it 7 million gifts?
It is.
How does it feel to give away 7,000 presents?
Well, it's 7 million.
Oh, 7 million. Sorry, 7 million. Oh my God, 7,000 was exciting. It's 7 million.
Yeah, I know. It's 7. 7 million new pajamas and new books to children. We call them magical gifts for bedtime. And it feels pretty awesome. It feels like a lot of people, there you go, the tens of thousands of people who've been helping for 20 plus years. It's amazing.
How did you end up doing this?
I was set on climbing the corporate ladder. I was going to be that woman who broke the glass ceiling in New York City, in the world of entertainment, living the life and, single, no time for anything but the love of my work. And I did that for 12 years. And I thought that was success. And, when I got there, wherever there was, that would be everything to me. And one day, alone in my apartment, I heard a voice And it came from inside me somewhere. And I heard clearly the question, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And I can't tell you how that rocked me. And I just was floored by that question that came, I thought, from nowhere.
How old were
But
you?
I was 30, almost 38.
38, and you had the life that you'd set out to lead.
I did. I did. And this was just out of the blue. And, thinking back now, all these years later, maybe that was a voice that was trying to get out. And because of the craziness of my life, never sitting still, it didn't have a chance. And, my parents, a very traditional family, my father off the boat, they'd always expected me, firstborn of four of their children, to get married and have children, follow a traditional family life. And I didn't. And when I heard that question in me, I stopped and I thought maybe they were right, that there was something in having a family, having children that I really missed. And that began a search.
Isn't it funny that when we stop to just pause in whatever way, shape, or form that comes to us, and I think a lot of people have had this with the last 18 months, things have changed. And so they've had to stop and actually look at what is their life made up of. And some people are really happy with the answers and some people aren't. And so what did you do? All of a sudden it's like, is this it? Is this, I've got pretty much everything I wanted to have, but I feel really empty.
It was. And, I immediately thought children. I didn't have children. And I thought, how can I bring children into my life? And I remembered seeing a news program on children who were harmed by people who were supposed to take care of them, and the police and social worker take these children to emergency shelters, and I had those recollections of days ago, and I thought, oh, where do they bring these children? And I called police stations, and I found out that there were city-run shelters where they bring them. And along the way, I found out that there were private shelters and some anonymous, but there were more than a few children in my area who were brought to emergency shelters on a daily basis. And I started to think, oh my goodness, and I was told they sleep there until they find, appropriate care in the short term. And I thought, well, I have nights free. Maybe I can go and read stories to them at night. And that's what I did.
How confronting was it? Because obviously you were quite well set up at this point in life. How confronting was it to turn up to one of those shelters and start reading a book to a child who literally has nothing?
I was just so, and I am embarrassed that I had no idea that there was this world of children who didn't have the basic bedtime. And I was sitting there in my pantsuit at the beginning on the floor because there weren't many chairs. It was a safe place, but it wasn't a home. And I sat in my pantsuit on the floor, and the children came in, and in about 15 minutes, I felt so grounded and so connected to them. Now, mind you, they didn't say much. Some of them have been crying, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
They were wearing clothes that were too small, and some too big, and some were soiled. And it was just surreal. I was out of body, but I felt so grounded for the first time in years.
And so how did you decide the pajamas were the thing?
Well, I read the stories, and it's all in my book, that aha moment. And it happened when I saw where they were going to sleep. I followed one night, and the loving staff were great, but the room was just as bare as where I read to them. Cots and futons, 2 or 3 children helped up on a surface, and they had their clothes that they'd been wearing. And, as I said, they weren't the most comfortable clothes or the cleanest clothes, and they didn't have pajamas to wear. And for some reason, it sort of fell out of my mouth to the staff person, can I bring pajamas next week? And she said, sure, that'd be lovely. And I did all week. I could think of nothing but pajamas and how many and the sizes and the patterns that would make them feel, happy and comforted. And I gave them out after I read a story or two, and quietly the children took them, except one little girl. She was so afraid. She just kept shaking her head. No, no, no. I tried and tried, but she didn't want to go to the room without the pajamas. So she watched me. She still wouldn't take them every time I tried, but she watched me. And when it was just her and her staff person, the rest of the children had gone in, had taken their pajamas, I tried one last time. And she whispered to me in that solitude of just her and me and the staff person, what are pajamas? That's
She
what
was
I said.
embarrassed.
She didn't know what they were. She
Yeah.
didn't even know. And she just asked as if she were asking, what's a two-headed elephant doing in the room? She had no clue. And I had to keep it together because I couldn't believe she asked me that. And I couldn't believe I had to tell a little girl what pajamas were.
Okay, I'm being a realist here. And the first thing I think of is, what if you didn't have enough? How did you
Well,
choose who
yes,
got the pajamas?
I was so obsessed. There was no way I wouldn't have enough. There was no way. I mean, I was Santa Claus 10 times over. I dragged bags and bags because of that exact fear. When I had, when I had that thought to ask about pajamas, I never knew in that moment I'd be sitting here talking to you. I never knew in that moment that little girl was going to ask me that question, but I knew I couldn't show up and leave someone out.
I would be exactly the same. I would be it's like food. When you come to my house, there always has to be way too much food. I can't. And I think maybe that is coming from a really poor background, is you don't want anybody to have to miss out. When you've missed out a lot in life, you don't want anybody else to miss out. So I can understand buying bags and bags of pajamas. So how did that lead you to where you are now, Jen? You have this amazing book. I can see it behind you, Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas. And you are so far away from the marketing career that you once started out with. Tell us what's happened since then.
Sure, sure. Well, the marketing career actually helped, it seemed, because I knew that story of that little girl was so deeply embedded in me that whenever I would tell it as if it happened a moment ago. And that's the best marketing. If you had to pay $1 million, I think that's what the best marketer would tell you. Speak from your heart. And I always tried to do that, even in my work. And it came so easily because that story is so simple, but everybody seemed to relate to it. It seemed like I was channeling that little girl because it still upsets me. I'm sorry, you could hear it in my voice. It still upsets me first that I had no clue and I had to learn in this way about these children and such a simple bedtime ritual and pair of pajamas that means more than the material. It means comfort and safety and love and security. And when I saw how they were going to sleep, those visions of my mom putting us to sleep in our beds, I understand that it's not the pajamas. It's everything that putting on the pajamas represents. And that story time, the bonding, and all of that was missing for these children. And it just made me upset and just heartbroken. So by telling that story, I think was the way that people felt they could join in. It's a simple thing. It's a pair of pajamas. It's a storybook, both brand new, because these children don't get anything brand new.
Yeah.
And what more do you have to say to somebody who cares about children, who wants to know how to help, who wants to know more? That's all you have to say. And that seemed to spread that simple message.
Yes. And it's not an expensive gift either, is it? Like I imagine you can probably get a book and pajamas over in the US for less than $20 retail. So
Absolutely.
it's not that you have to give, half of your salary away to make a difference. We're talking about a really small thing that can change just, I suspect it can change a whole child's life when they have those feelings that you were just talking about, the safety and the security and the comfort.
Well, I had to believe that even if I didn't hand, or any of us didn't hand a child the pajamas and books, that when they arrived to the orphanages, to the shelters, to the group homes, to the places where these children were, I would I would bank on the fact that they knew somehow that invisible tie from one of us to them that gave them love and comfort to believe somebody cared about them and just to go to sleep comfortable and warm. I had to believe, or I don't think I could have continued. I had to believe it made a difference. And through the years, I have met so many people who, one man, the first time, I would think so often, am I really making a difference? Am I really going anywhere with this? Is there really more than just something that makes me feel good? Can I make a difference? And one man called and asked me a whole bunch of questions and scared me. I didn't know why he was asking me what I was doing and why I was doing it. And then he apologized because he knew he was scaring me. And he said, I was one of those children living in an orphanage. And I can tell you, bedtime is the worst time. I cried asking, where's my mommy? He said, and I'm telling you, they feel the love. They feel you connected to them. And that just did wonders for my sleeping.
I literally
for
have
a few days.
I have goosebumps down my arm as you're saying that. And I think I know that you teach people leadership now, but to me, that is the thing that quite often I see recurring with business owners at any level is the people who listen to this podcast started a business for a reason, whether it was to change the world in their own little way or they saw a niche and they wanted to help people. At the end of the day, they wanted to help people. And so there are times in your business and times in your life where you do sometimes just think, should I just throw it all in? Like, am I making a difference? I know even on a podcast, you sometimes sit there and think, is anybody even listening? Like you can see downloads, but are you really helping people make a difference? Because I don't want to waste anybody's time. And I imagine you didn't want to waste your time and the staff's time and the time to find the pajamas and get all the things together. And it can be really lonely when you're in a position of leadership. How did you just keep going?
Well, I call it an obsession. And I think most leaders, most founders, especially entrepreneurs who have an idea or who see a way to make a difference, like you were saying, I think we are obsessed. And I think that brings us closer to sharing that passion, and it's contagious. And
Yeah.
I think if you find a way to convey that purpose, that how that person or group that you're helping, you find a way to convey emotionally to those you're asking to support you, to be team members, if you can get them to feel what you feel, first the problem, and then rejoice that you have found a solution, and share the comments from the people you're helping. If you can share all of that and not keep it from them and just expect them to do a job but not get emotionally involved. If you can share that, I think that they want to be part of this team, and it helps culture, it helps morale, and it helps the bottom line like nothing else.
I 100% agree with that because I think great leaders are great visionaries. And I say this from experience, and I'm not trying to have a big head, but when you truly believe in the thing that you are doing, it is infectious and you do attract the right people, and a good team gets so caught up in how you want to change the world or how your business wants to change the world that the money stuff is almost like a secondary thing. They want to be on that train. They want to follow you. They want to help your customers. They want to help those, the end user to have a different life. And so I think that passion is the key, But also, like you said, you can't keep it bottled up. A good leader has the passion, but they also have the vision and are able to communicate that.
Right. And as you say, it's a must that the leader continue to be the visionary and not spend time in the weeds and not try to fix every problem and not feel like they have to have a relationship with every single team member and forget about the relationship that they have to foster between the team members themselves, because you can't be in the room all the time, and you shouldn't be in the room all the time. Good leaders can build a team that are responsible to each other, that are accountable to each other, and together are accountable to you. They need to look to their left and look to their right and know somebody's got their back and get excited and share the ups and share the downs. Not always feel like they have to run to the leader. The leader's the only one who's going to get it. That's not what a leader's purpose is.
No.
It's to build this amazing team to meet the goal.
How do you help people? Because I know this is a problem that I come across nearly every day. How do you help people move from, because when they started out, they had that vision, they had that purpose. And then as business moves on, they do get stuck in the weeds. They get stuck running the business. They get stuck doing all of the things. How do you help them to step back up to that visionary role so people aren't running to them? Because I'm going to hazard a guess. I'm not going to hazard a guess. I'm going to come out and say, and this could be probably quite confronting to some people, that when you are that visionary, that leader, there is actually validation that comes from everybody needing you. And so giving up that being needed all the time is almost like not continuously being validated. So how do you, well, first of all, do you agree with me? Because you've got way more experience than I do. And then second of all, how do you help people to move back up into that visionary role rather than being stuck in the weeds, expecting every decision to have to go through them?
I think when you find the purpose, and most leaders and founders and entrepreneurs know what their purpose is. I think you have to realize that your anything selfish is not valuable in this situation anymore. When you have a job and you're trying to protect things and you trying to make money and all of that, there's sometimes selfish needs. And I've been certainly selfish when I had a job and doing things because it made me feel good and I wanted the praise and I wanted the validation, and I get that now looking back, and how for me, how hollow that is compared to having a purpose, because it's not about the leader when you have a grander purpose. It's not about that, because it's not going to help whoever you're trying to help if you go around thinking I'm going to give because I have to get, and this is what I need or else I can't do that. So I think if you're genuinely following your purpose, over time the selfish tendencies go away and you can figure out how to make other people feel good, because you need them. You need your team. You're building your team so that you can trust them to do what you used to do when it was just you alone, so that you can continue to grow the vision. And yes, I know it's very hard because I've been there, letting go of doing everything my way. We all think, especially if we have a purpose, there's only one way, and I'm going to teach you my way and you're going to do it my way. And then everything's going to be fine. And then I'll have time to go and plan the next 10 years. But that's not what happens. You don't have any time to plan the next 10 years because you are looking over everybody's shoulder. And I think sometimes it takes a mistake. I've made lots of mistakes. I chronicled them. It's a very tell-all honest book. I talk about the mistakes I made and how I learned the phrase that I grew up with. I think a lot of us do, and I think it's valuable here to talk about it with you, is I used to think the power of one is so amazing. I had this idea and people would say years ago, oh, wow, you had this idea. Look at the power of one. You did it. I learned over 20 years, and so many people, both on my team and supporters and strangers, it's not the power of one that changes things.
No.
It's the power of one another that moves mountains and moves people. And that takes you out of the equation as the person who's responsible or gets the credit, because there's no way anyone can have a successful team and culture and a successful group of people who care about each other and want to stay with you and work with you without you realizing that you can't do it alone.
And by that same token, they can't do it if they don't have a great leader who knows where, what the vision is, who knows where they want to end up and who they want to help. And so you're actually doing a disservice to that end customer or that end recipient and to your team if you're putting your fingers in all the pies and have to be in control of everything.
You're right. People want to be inspired. We all want to be inspired. We don't want to be micromanaged.
No. And also, I have found pretty much every single time that I have given people more responsibility, and sometimes it can seem a bit harsh. I mean, we had this just this week with one of our team members. It was like pushing him out of the nest and learning how to fly. It's like, you can do this. I'm not here for you. It's your project now. And he was very, very, sort of scared. But days later, he's like, oh, I'm so glad that you did that, because I proved to myself that I did it. But, I just the happiness and the empowerment, and I know that word is way overused, but the happiness and the empowerment and the confidence and the strength that come with being a good leader changes the whole, like you said earlier, the whole culture. And if you have people who are empowered, then you get to move that vision forward faster and probably with greater impact.
Who doesn't love when someone believes in you?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the best feelings in the world, that somebody believes in you.
So what do you do then, now that you've had this moment where you've realized that you need to step back up into your leadership role rather than your store manager role or e-commerce manager role? What are some things that you can do, just little things to help get you there, get you back into the spirit of being the leader?
Well, it's an exciting time. If you've come to the point that you have a team, that is responsible to each other and to you, respectful of each other and to you, and accountable, and feeling invested, and that you've spent one-on-one time really understanding how invested they are and what's motivating them to help you reach the bottom line. If you have that team that's in a really good place, then it's so exciting, I feel, for a leader to have that time now to go and look at a blank piece of paper and say, where do we want to go? Where do we want to be in 10 years? And how can I make this so exciting, and go back to the team and show them this, because they're going to rally and be excited. And I think a glass of wine and a big poster board and markers, and just put that vision board together of the next 10 years and the next, and the exciting opportunities, and just be free with it, because don't have that burden of micromanaging and worrying and thinking about what everybody's doing. They can't wait for this new plan.
It's almost like, don't worry about the how. And it's funny because we did this just a little bit, I don't know, 4 months ago, where I realized we'd kind of hit quite a few of the goals that I'd put in place. And my creative director, Elizabeth, said to me, you need to be thinking of some new stuff. And she asked me some really hard questions, but it was amazing. And she's like, just say whatever comes out. We've been friends for over a decade. Just say whatever comes out. Don't worry about how. And it was like a bit of reverse what I do with my clients. And I said to her, I want to help 50,000 people in the next 5 years. And I was like, I got to work out how many that is. And she's like, no, don't worry. Just say it. And I said, I want to I'm so passionate about working with people who are independent businesses, sub $10 million in revenue. Like, I love scaling businesses. And I want to create the first state of the market report for that group of people. And then the first thing you think of is, oh my God, how? But it's amazing. Since I have put those goals in place, there are a few others as well. Opportunities have just appeared, like, because you get so excited and you tell people, I want to help 50,000 people in the next 5 years. They go, oh, how can I help? Or how are you going to do that? And even if you say, I don't know just yet, I've had people say, could we partner to do some training for these people? Or they just appear. It's amazing. So let me just take you back to, you said, if you've got the team that works really well together, what if you don't have the team that works really well together? Or maybe you are still just working by yourself with some contractors or some casual team members. What do you do then?
You do need a supportive team. You do need the right team. And sometimes it's not easy to come to terms with that if you don't have the right team. But that's part of being a good leader, to know how to decide, can this team come together? Can I put the time and effort in? Is it possible? And that's an effort that a leader has to make, to talk to each person and decide one by one how much would it take to bring this person up to where they feel good about it, because that's what it's about. You want everyone to feel good about where they are. It's not about if you think they're good for the job. Do they think they're good for the job? If they don't think they're good for the job, they won't be. If you think they have potential, that's great. But if they don't feel it, or they don't particularly like it, then it's not going to happen for you. So it's a very honest time. It can be difficult, but the other side has a rainbow. The other side is where the freedom is to do what you did, to say, this is what I want to do. You can have that freedom. And sometimes you do have to get through the, do I have the right team question.
I have seen that pretty much every client I've ever worked with is they keep people because they're nice, or they keep people because customers like them. But at the end of the day, they're not actually contributing to the growth of the business. And 9 times out of 10, they're turning up for the paycheck. They're not turning up for the vision. They're not turning up to be part of something bigger. And there is, especially because this is retail, especially a bricks and mortar store, it's like, well, a body is better than nobody. Like, anybody is better than nobody, because I need somebody on the floor. And it's really hard to explain to people actually what they're doing. Maybe they're costing you sales, but they could be costing you so much more in that team culture or in that customer experience that you haven't built into that equation. So do you have any tips for people who have to make some of those hard decisions?
Well, I always started early, and I know some people thought I was crazy, but when I hired someone, in that conversation, I said, I want you to stay as long as you love it, as long as you're challenged, as long as you feel that you are working to your potential, as long as you feel there's an open door between us, as long as you feel everybody has your back here. I will support you if it comes a time when you don't feel any of those things. And I want you to feel free to tell me if you don't feel those things, and to tell me if you want to leave. And I started that because I wanted to build a certain culture, and I wanted to be free from holding too tightly to something that wanted maybe to let go. And I didn't want anyone to spend my time as a leader and the company's time thinking, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want her to feel bad. I don't know what to do. I wanted that freedom set. And I think that it worked out. You know, I still talk to everybody that I ever hired who didn't stay. Some of them I knew soon that they would find their purpose, because I would see it in what they were doing on their own time. Now it's different. Now people expect their purpose 9 to 5, to find meaning 9 to 5. And I think it's a good a good policy to let your team members know you want their buy-in honestly and purely, and you're willing to listen and to do whatever you can, as long as you feel that it's a two-way street and it works for you, the leader. And I think if people respect that going in, and they know that you want more from them than just a body, that it makes a difference, especially now. People want to be heard and seen and treated like they are a real piece of the solution.
How can we foster that in our businesses, whether you've got one person working with you or 100 people working with you? To be a great leader, what small things can you do every day to make sure that your team are really happy with where the business is headed, and we're still on track, and we're still like, I can't see, I've been in the corporate world, and I remember just inwardly groaning when the boss would get up and, the last Friday of the month and give a report on how the business was running, but it never felt like I was part of the business. It felt like he was talking at us. And it was like, the only reason you got all that money is because we're all sitting down here doing the work.
Right.
So how do you do that? What little things that don't cost anything? What little things that we can do every single day just to keep fostering that relationship with our team and that relationship within ourselves, to know that we are on the right track. We are making a difference. We are going to change the world, even if it is in this tiny little way.
Well, I tell you that when I was leading at Pajama Program and a couple of other places, for every project, everybody had a role. We'd sit around the table and we'd get excited, and I'd tell them my idea, and everybody would make it better. And then I gave everybody a piece. Often they knew what piece they wanted, and it worked out. And if you give everybody a piece and then you make them accountable, make a couple of people accountable to each other to talk about it, and then say, let's come back in a week, and everybody has a voice at the table. That voice at the table has been unusual in many companies. And I think more are coming around to it now because of the pandemic and because of the way people are asking or demanding that they be heard and seen. And I think just giving them a chance to speak and talk about what they've done and get a pat on the back. I read somewhere that people prefer a pat on the back to a raise, and that might not be true for a lot of people, but it's true. People need that, and too often weeks and weeks go by and nobody hears that from the boss. So by giving everybody a piece of a project and then pairing them up or giving them the subcommittees to figure out something to report back to the team, that helped a lot, because everybody had a buy-in, everybody got excited for each other, and I could leave the room and they could carry on. And that was amazing that they didn't need me. And I loved it, because then I could do what you did. I can go in and say, okay, the next project is bigger and better.
Yeah. So speaking of next projects, 20 years, over 7 million presents, pajamas and books. What's next?
Well, I want to continue the speaking that I was doing before the pandemic in person. So
I'm with you there.
15, yeah, right. So I've done 15 master classes on Zoom over the year and a half. But I'm doing an in-person event actually in New York, October 2nd, Find Your Purpose. It's a summit all day. And it's for people who want to find their purpose or who have found it and need help with the first few steps. And it's a day full of inspiration and practical expert workshops and all kinds of mentors available to talk to each of our participants about their specific projects, and everything from finance to marketing to branding to how do I tell my family to how do I jump to is it a slide or a jump. So it's practical and it's inspiring, and I feel like I want to give that back. So many people have inspired me that all those times I was asked, how can I do it? How can I find my purpose? I want to focus on that now and see if I can be on the side of people finding purpose and meaning 9 to 5.
Okay, so let's just check in here. The Pajama Project still runs, doesn't it?
Yes, Pajama Program runs with an executive director. Yes, I went to our board a few years ago and said, I want to do my speaking on a larger scale on purpose, finding your purpose and how it changes everything. I want to write my book, and I want to do these conferences and summits to help people. So can we hire an executive director instead of me? And we did. And she's great. And she's the day-to-day putting everything together and growing Pajama Program. And I am doing this creative work that I so missed. And I feel like what we said, I have some freedom to do all that and not be day-to-day at my desk, doing the things that took me away from the original reason I started Pajama Program.
And I think people forget that. I'm looking at you. If you're watching the YouTube video, you so lit up when you were talking about that. And this is what happens when you step up into that role, when you stop doing all the things, when you get out of the weeds, you're not doing the things that drain you. You get to do the things that, like your face just then, it was glowing. And how exciting is it to get up every day and change the world and do things you really enjoy doing? So congratulations. But if you're listening, know that it can happen. Know that you can get your business to a point where it can still carry on being amazing and changing people's lives, but you don't have to be there every single day. Congratulations.
Well, hopefully I'll be out there in person soon, and there'll be so many people who, will feel some support now with a room full of those of us who say, we've been there, we know you, and we're here.
And if people are listening and they either want to help out and be part of the Pajama Project or to come to your purpose workshop, where can they find more information?
For me, they can find it at my website, GenevievePiturro.com.
Okay, we'll pop that in the link because I can never spell Genevieve.
Okay. I know.
We'll pop that into the show notes. I have a friend called Genevieve, and I just have to call Jen because I can never type it correctly.
Okay, I'm writing it down. GenevievePiturro.com, and they can find my email. They can did I spell it right?
I spell my name wrong all the time. It's all right. I've got it here on this piece of paper. I will make sure we'll get it right.
I did it right. Yep. So that's where my summit is, my book is, my work, my master classes, my speaking, all that. And Pajama Program is pajamaprogram.org.
Fantastic. And can people donate? Can they help out with the Pajama Program?
Yes. We have 63 chapters around the US, one near you. And you can go to chapters on the About page and you just type in where you're from and you'll be connected to chapter president. And you can do drives, everything stays local. You can see what's going on. And Jamie and the team have got a great year planned. So so check it out.
Oh, congratulations. And again, and thank you so much for all of your hard work. I have been like, it's 7 o'clock in the morning and this is like the best start to my day hearing stories like that. So thank you for very selfish, making my day feel so much better. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And I love your stories too. It's great. Everything you've done.
Okay. Thank you. That was great. I could have talked to you for ages, but I was like, I'm getting to the point where I could just keep talking or I need to like wrap this up.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And I hope that somebody feels inspired who's listening.
I'm sure they will. I've got your website here and the only thing I did, I've got it on your Google sheet as well. So the only thing I didn't have was the Pajama Program. So it's just pajamaprogram.org.
Yes, and if people Google it, they will find it, no problem.
Fantastic. All righty. I will put that, I'm just writing the pajama thing down.
Okay.
I will get all this done and my assistant will email you when it goes live. It'll be in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. I will promote it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more Retail Biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.